Hello, friends. The 1,281 day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. The Russians captured 2 villages in the Dnipropetrovsk region that I talked about in the last video. The military telegram channel Deep State reports. It confirms the loss of Zaporizhzhia, which was also stated by the Russians, but the command of the armed forces of Ukraine denied it. The Russians also captured neighboring Novokhyrovka and advanced to the border nearby in the Donetsk region, near Shevchenko, the telegram channel writes. But the Ukrainian command denies the loss of both villages. The Ukrainian defense forces stopped the advance of the Russian invaders and continue to control the village of Zaporizhzhia, despite all the efforts of the enemy, who is trying to capture this settlement. Active hostilities are also continuing in the area of the village of Novokhyrovka. Information about the occupation of both of these settlements by the Russians is not true, the message of the Dnipro group says. Significant advancement near Russia and Kostiantynivka. Deep State confirms Russian data on the advance in the Oleksandro-Shultany area. The situation in this area was described by a Ukrainian soldier with the call sign Muchnoi. According to him, the Russian army is consolidating in Katernivka and Shcherbanivka, trying to encircle Klebenbyk. Muchnoi describes the situation in the settlements located in the epicenter of the fighting in the direction. According to him, in Katernivka, the Russians have consolidated most of the village in order to accumulate resources for a further attack on Klebenbyk. The Ukrainian armed forces are working on them, but Russian artillery and aviation are in the way. So the enemy takes advantage of this and quickly occupies advantageous positions. In Klebenbyk, this settlement is now in the center of the confrontation. The Russian army is trying to bypass it from different sides in order to cut off communications and take the village in a semicircle. Constant assaults are underway with the use of drones, aviation and heavy artillery. In Shcherbanivka, the Russians have consolidated their positions, but not yet completely. They are also systematically concentrating their forces, plus they are bringing in drone units to actively work on logistics. Oleksandro-Shultany is under the fire control of the Russian army, and there are battles to hold positions there. For now, the western part remains under the Ukrainian armed forces, the rest is under the Russians. Now the settlement is in limbo. In Belagora, the Russians are expanding the control zone north of the village by 2 kilometers in depth. The Ukrainian armed forces will soon lose the Serebryansky forestry and neighboring territories, writes military observer Mirzhnikov. The defense of the Serebryansky forestry is coming to an end. At the same time, the defense of the bridgehead on the eastern bank of the Jerebits River is also coming to an end. This significantly worsens the positions of both key settlements to the east of the Kramatorsk-Sloviansk agglomeration Siversk and Liman, Mirzhnikov believes. According to him, Siversk is already practically half encircled on 2 sides, and if the Russians capture Dronovka from the Serebryansky forest, then they will be surrounded on 3 sides. Things are not very good there, to put it mildly. If not to say very bad, Mirzhnikov adds. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians have advanced in the settlement of Stepanohirsk, reports a senior lieutenant of the Ukrainian army with the call sign Alex. According to his information, the Russians have taken up positions in the southern and southwestern parts of Stepanohirsk, but it is not yet known whether we are talking about individual groups or full-fledged units that have entrenched themselves in these positions. Deep State reported 2 weeks ago that the Ukrainian armed forces had cleared Stepanohirsk, and now on its map, the entire village is under the control of the Ukrainian army. Kherson may find itself in an air blockade on the southern front. The main road to the regional center, leading from Mykolaiv, has been officially recognized as dangerous to travel. Now Kherson is in a drone semi-encirclement, says serviceman and former deputy Lutsenko. Moreover, this happened only after an FPV drone struck the prosecutor's car. Although such strikes had previously hit other cars, Lutsenko reports. Thus, the main transport artery that fed this regional center is now out of service. Her son is officially in a drone semi-encirclement, the serviceman comments. He notes that now the only alternative road to supply her son goes through Myzhikivka to the north, and is located only 8 kilometers further than the road that is already under attack by Russian drones. It is not difficult to draw conclusions on your own, and it is also easy to predict the consequences. Roads tens of kilometers deep either already exist or will soon be impassable, writes Lutsenko. He also writes that the range of FPV drone strikes is constantly growing. Now it is 20 to 30 kilometers, but soon it may be more, which will potentially create big problems for other cities located relatively close to the front, such as Kharkiv and Sumy. He calls for systemic decisions to counter this threat at the level of the country's leadership. By the way, the enemy continues to strike the only bridge that connects the Ostrov micro-district with the rest of Kherson.
Friends, I want to develop and strive for higher quality content, but my 2009 computer does not allow me to do this. If you have the opportunity to help me buy a new computer and make my dream come true, I will be very grateful to you. You will find the link in the description under the video and in the pinned comment. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.